Reporting. Okay, so we started with the price of $32,000, right? All right, so this was the starting price, right? The original price. Now, what we know is every year the price is changing and it's decreasing, right? So what I can say is that I will be subtracting some numbers, right, from this 32,000. I will be subtracting 1,300 first year, right? The next year, I will subtract another 1,300. The next year, I'll subtract another 1,300. And you know what happens when I open up all these parentheses? It will look like I have 32,600 minus 1,300 minus 1,300 minus 1,300 and so forth, right? But let's think of what I just did. The first subtraction was after the first year, after the first year, right? The second subtraction when I did this was after the second year, right? So at the end of the second year, that's how the price will fall and so forth. So you see what connection I have after the 3 years, right? To see what's the price of the automobile now, I need to subtract 1,300 3 times. So I can come up with the formula 32,600 minus 1,300 multiplied by T. This is what they want to use, right? Let T represent the number of years after 2003, right? So this T will be standing for the number of the years. So this way, I will say that in 2 years, it will be 1,300 multiplied by 2, subtracted from 32,600, right? After 5 years, it will be 1,300 times 5, subtracted from the 32,600, and so forth, right? Now, let's go back to the question, what they're asking here. They're looking for this amount. When will the course value be 24,800? And this is actually looks like that in our equation, right? So I keep subtracting those 1,300. I need to know when to stop, when this difference will become equal to this number, right? So this is our equation. This is our equation to solve. Let me know if you have any questions about how I cooked it up, right? Because what I'm doing here is I'm kind of developing it, right? So let me know if you have any questions about it. And if you don't have any questions about it, start solving it. Find what the value of T is. So I'm asking you to find what the value of T will be, okay? And let me know if you have any questions. I'll erase some of the things. So for example, oh, this one, you know, I'll clear this one up. The rest are okay. They don't interfere with the text that much, right? So maybe this I'll clear. Okay. Okay, no question. So work on it. Let me give you 3 minutes to work on them. What's time? 12. Okay, so at 10:15 we will stop. And please, as soon as you find the value of T, can you please put it into the chat messages for me? So resume the recording. I'll put a white rectangle for the time being over here, right? Just to show how I solved it. Okay, so here I had 32,600 minus 1,300T equals to 24,800. So I subtracted the 32,000, right? I got the negative number on the left, but I didn't worry because this one came with a negative as well, right? So it was, what was it? Let me subtract it again because my calculator now has the answer. Minus
negative 7,800. Sorry.
Yes. Yes. Thank you. And then I divided both sides by the negative 1,300. right? And that's how I got that the t was 6, right? And for the answer, we will put that it is years. But what I want to say is, I mean, that's not happening in real life. In the real world, most likely we will end up with a decimal. So here is the question. What if I got that t was 6.3, right? Years, right? So what should I have been given then is the answer? What should I give as the answer, right? Should I give 6 or should I give 7, right?
6 because you round in, and if the 3 is lower than the 5, it should be 6.
Right. So you're thinking about the rounding off, right? When we do round off, 6.3 indeed becomes 6. But what I want to say is that after 6 years, the price will not be what we are looking for. It didn't reach it yet. It needs a little bit more time to deprecate more, right? So it needs the price to fall lower. Right now, after the 6 years, the price will not be, whatever it is, right? Let's say we're thinking about 23,800, right? So it will not be there yet. It will be maybe 23,900. So it's not that low yet. So therefore, the answer to this case then will be 7 years. You will have to put the answer as the 7 years, which you can also put as a 7.5 years, right? But if they are measuring in full years, you'll have to say 7, because after 6 years, the price will not be as low, right, as what we are looking for. And if they're okay with having the decimal could be the answer. But usually for years, no. We need to know, the whole number there. So the answer then in this case will be 7 years. Okay. And it's a tricky question, but it's the question from the real world, right? So, I'm looking at the prices, how many years later should I sell the car or something, right? And, I never end up with the integers. No, I end up with the decimals. And when we know how to understand them, it gives us more power, to tell the truth. Okay. Okay, excellent. That's why I believe in the second part of this chapter, I have to double check it. I think you're beginning to deal with the inequalities. So because once again, we are never getting the integers as the answers in real world, right? So we have to accommodate, and inequalities do it pretty well. Okay, so let me clear all the drawings. And this was the last question for the word problems, right, for the section 3.2. And what I want to end is, it's not possible to list all the possible questions that you can get, but it's possible to classify them. So usually they do classify the word problems. For example, motion problem, right, or mixing problem in terms of the chemistry, liquids, and so forth. So you might see from time to time word problems, and they're like physics, geometry, right, of that topic. Okay. Okay, so just give me a moment to pull up the next set of the lecture slides, and we will work on them. So they are covering the topics from the section 3.3. And the very first thing we start here with is just plugging in the numbers. So check out this problem here. I have it as an exercise 1. And let me double check that you can see my slide. I want to make sure that I'm sharing. Yes, I'm sharing it. Okay. So, so the depreciation per year formula, and by the way, this was just the example for it, right, is given by this formula. The depreciation means the final value. If I'm not missed, oh, no. So depreciation per year only. So this formula is a little bit changed from what you saw, because it's the depreciation per year, not the final one, right? So what it is, it's the cost of the asset. Well, we can guess that it's the initial cost. Then salvage value, right? The salvage value. So for example, 10 years later, I was able to sell it for that much, right? So that's the salvage value. So we subtract and then we divide by the number of years, by the useful life of asset. So all this terminology is coming from, I'd say, finances to us, right? Now, what we are asked to do is just plug in some numbers and get the final answer for this letter D in the formula. So, oh no, not the letter D. Okay, yeah. So when I posted it, they didn't have it for the letter D. Okay, so we will be asked to find the salvage value. Okay, so let's look at this question here. Find the salvage value as, so it's this number in the formula, if the cost of the asset was $12,000. This is the cost. It was $12,000. The useful life of asset was 5 years. And the depreciation per year came out to be $800, right? So what they are asking us for is what was the salvage value of this item? I don't know what is it, right? But what we can do here is two options. So two options. Let me draw something here. Two options. One option is I can plug in the numbers. Number one, plug in the numbers. Plug in the numbers, right? Now, the second option will be to solve the given equation for S, right? So that's the second option. Solve the given equation for S, then plug in the numbers, right? Two options. And to tell you the truth, because we are more used to dealing with numbers, right? Like we call our arithmetic, what my recommendation usually is if you're not asked to provide the formula, plug in the numbers and find the missing value. Okay, so what I usually recommend is to follow the path number one. Here is how I would start it, and I will ask you to finish it. Okay, so this is the D, right? This is the D. So it is 800. Now equals to. Now this is the years, right? The N. So they will be under the division line. Okay. Now the last piece of information that I do know is that the cost of asset was $12,000. So it's this C, right? So it was $12,000. And then this S we are missing, right? So here we will put minus S, and this is what we need to find. Oh, not the N, but the 5, right? I should put 5 instead of the N, 5. I'm plugging in the numbers right away, right? Okay, I'm pretty sure you can solve this equation, right? Because we were solving linear equations in one variables. So what I would say here, I would multiply both sides by 5, right? And I will solve it. Now, the other option, I would show it to you because it's a practice for us. But I want to go and start with it first because I want you to see that your math, the things you will be doing here, will be trailing the same path as what we will do here. So let me start by putting D is equal to C minus S over N. So I'm going to solve this little equation for S. First thing I will do is I will multiply both sides by N because it will cancel the denominator here, right? So I could put N as N over 1, canceling the factor from the denominator, canceling the factor from the numerator. So what it will give me is the ND equal to C minus S, right? And then what I could do is I could send this C to the other side, right? Because I need to isolate the negative S, right? So I could send this C to the other side. And finally, the third step will be to divide both sides by -1, right? Or to multiply. What you might also think of is sending this S with a negative sign to the other side, because then it will make it positive. And this is what I will do. So this is what I will do. I will send this to the other side. It will change its sign. So this is how it would look like. It will be S is equal to, plus and D equals to C. And then I will send this and D to the other side, right? So once again, what it gave me is that I didn't have to divide by a negative number. Is it that much of a difference? No. You know, really, it doesn't really matter how you do things around. How do you send them? How do you subtract them and so forth? C minus and D. So this is the formula. And now I can plug in all the information in, right? I know that the cost of asset was, it was orange. I'm trying to see, yes, orange. It was 12,000, right? The number of years was 5, and the depreciation then came out to be 800, right? So if I do this formula, I'll find the answer, right? But once again, what I'm asking you to do is to use this approach and try to see the correspondence of what you're doing here with the moves, not the math, because it was just moving around, right? Like I couldn't evaluate anything, just with the moves that I did over here, okay? So solve it for me, please. Find what's the value of the S. What was that salvage value, right? And put it into the chat messages, please. I'm not recording, okay. But so I apologize. My recordings recently are really like on and off. Now let me put it over here. Do you see this first phrase, 2 less than, right? 2 less than. Immediately, I'm thinking of -2, right? So without any hesitations, it's -2. Then I see this, the square of. As soon as you see the square of, and we already have the -2, right? So the next things should be coming out of here, right? As soon as you see the square of, you put the parenthesis and it's a square, right? And then inside, you have these parentheses of the square, the difference. As soon as you see this word, the difference, you put the minus inside, right? So 2 less than the square of the difference, right? So we up to this point. And then the difference and the splitter, right? Of 5 times a number and. This is our split. This is our split. Remember how we were learning to do the split, right? This is our split. So 10 goes here, 5 times a number goes here, right? So, and I know that even if you had a different number, so maybe you had 7 times, right? Or maybe you have 8 times, like, because you're usually getting different variations. So some of you might have the same, some of you might have a different, right? And then this number might be also 12 or something. But here is the idea on how to parse it. Let me know if you have any questions. So this one is from the homework number 5.
I didn't like that, but instead of putting the 2 on top, I put x2. And then that's why I kept getting it wrong.
Wrong, yeah. Yeah. You know, any step to the left or to the right, and you're getting it wrong. Yeah. So, okay, excellent. So let me clear all the drawings. Let me get back to sharing our lecture slides, and let's go to the next problem. So I didn't record this solution, right, of this problem, but the answer is 8,000. I apologize for that. Okay. So this is the next question. Rose's garden is in the shape of a trapezoid. Now we are given the formula here for the area of the trapezoid. So if you remember it, the A stands for the area, the uppercase letter B stands for the larger base, right? And the lowercase b for the smaller base. And then the h is the height of the trapezoid. And we can draw it. Definitely, you know, I always like to draw things because it gives me much more understanding, right? So I'll definitely draw it. So if the height of the trapezoid is 16 meters, one base is 20 meters. And the area is 224 meters squared, right? The area is always squared. The volume is cubed, right? And the length is just the unit. find the length for the other base. Now, they're not telling me which base is it exactly, but the thing is, there's no much difference in what to use for what in the formula because we are just adding them, right? So I shouldn't be worried. Now, let's make a drawing. Annotate. So usually the trapezoids look like this. So the two sides are parallel, right? Like one side and the other one. And these two sides, I mean, they can be different, right? So something like this. Now, if we draw it, we can put the height like here, right? The idea of the height is that it should be perpendicular, right, to the base. Same here, we can draw it over here. And the idea is the length of the height, right, is this distance between the two parallel sides, right? So we have a perpendicular line here that is both perpendicular to this base and to this base as well, right? Okay, now usually we denote the small one with the B, the large one with the B, and that's all we need for the formula. Now let's see what we have. The height of the trapezoid, 16 meters. So we know that this one is 16 meters, 16 meters. The base, you know, I don't know which base is it. We can say that it's this one. It doesn't matter. If we find the other one is smaller, we'll say, oh, well, you know, I should switch them. But it doesn't matter. And then the area. So this entire area, right, like everything inside it, the area is equal to the 224. Now we are asked to find this other base, right? This other base, what is it? We have the formula, right? So we have the formula for this A, I could use the 224. Let's say for this B, right? Because we decided that may be the smaller one, right? So for this B, I could say 20 meters, right? For the H, I can say that this is 16 meters, right? And then I'm looking for this one. So this one I'll have to find. Okay, we're all set with the information. I would like you to work on this problem again. Then I'll put my answer. Please put your answers into the chat messages and then we'll work on it as well. Okay, now here we are not asked to solve it, right, for the variable B. So we can definitely plug in the numbers and find the missing value using the first approach, right? Okay, so go ahead. Let's have 4 minutes for that. And please put your answers into the chat messages, okay, for me. Okay, let me work on it. So I'm just plugging in the numbers. And by the way, you know, what I see is they're doing something with the electricity, so it might accidentally fall off. And, you know, I have a laptop, it's okay. But what about the internet connection? So if I just disappear, wait for me, I'll come back, okay? Wait, let me check the chat messages. I think I have one more answer, 44, okay. Okay, so I got 8 as the answer for the length for the other base. So what is it? 8 meters, right? 8 meters then. Let's see how did I get it. I have 224 on the left side. I have that B, right, that I don't know, plus 20 over 2 times 16. Now, what I do like with the denominators to do is to cancel them. Therefore, this is what I will do the first thing. I will cancel 2 from here, get 1, cancel 2 from here, get 8. It will make my life much easier, but I have to be very careful. This is expression. So this multiplication multiplies this entire expression. So this is one of the things that you can get wrong when you do the cancellations and then you just multiply maybe 8 by 20, right? Or so forth. No, this multiplication is for the entire fraction, right? So if anything here cancels, the number here multiplies this entire expression. So let me copy it over. 224 is equal to B plus 20 and then times 8. And then I need to do that distributive property rule, right? I need to use it. So I'm getting 224 equals to 8B plus 160, right? Okay. The next step for me then will be to, I'm looking at this 8b, right? I need to make it lonely, right? Alone on the side. So I need to subtract the 160, send it to the other side, right? Minus 160. So here they are canceled. And on the left side here, let me use my calculator. 224 minus 160, I am getting 64, right? And on the other side, I have 8b. Then the last step for me will be to divide both sides by 8, right? And I know that this is 8. So I will get that the b is equal to 8. And for the answer, I will put 8 meters, right? Meters. So, my picture, what I can do, if I had it, then I could say that this was 20 meters and this was find it, and I find that it's 8 meters. So once again, it's not a big deal if I didn't do the picture alignments correctly, as long as height is height and base is a base, right? So that's not a big deal there. Let me know if you have any questions. Everybody's good?
So question, anytime you're doing an equation like this and there's a number on the outside of the bar where you divide, like the 16 is outside of the equation, on the other side, you would turn it into a fraction and times it by whatever number is underneath.
Yeah.
Where 2 is at?
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. And I always prefer to simplify because it keeps the numbers at bay, right? They're small, not the crazy numbers. Yeah. So like usually the rule of thumb with refraction is always simplify them when possible. Okay. Now I remember that I have 2 more questions. The 5th one is after the quiz. But the 2 more questions for us to work on, to practice. And then, if we decide to do the last one also before the quiz, we can do it. It's also a very nice one. But, we can do it after the quiz as well. This is the formula that I was telling you about, right? That I am using it. So this formula gives me conversion from Celsius to Fahrenheit. And if you Google, you will find the formula for the conversion from Fahrenheit to Celsius, apologies. So here, so it will be Celsius is equal to something, right? You can keep both of them handy. You can keep only one because we can always change it, right? We can always work on it, solve for the C, right? And get the formula for conversion from Fahrenheit to Celsius. But what I wanted to show with this example is we don't need that second formula. And if we have information and we are asked to convert, we can plug in the number and we can find the information. So check us out. The number 1 asks us to convert 10 degrees Celsius to Fahrenheit degrees, right? So it means that this piece of information will be used in this place. So it's like using the formula, right? Like really using the formula. Let's go ahead and plug it in, right? So F is equal to 9/5 times 10 plus 32, right? Let me check the chat messages. Yeah, 50, okay. 50, 50, 50. 50, I agree. Yes, you'll be getting 50 there. I won't, even give you some time to think about it. Just find a moment of what would you do, right? What would be your one step from here? Well, my step will be to cancel the 5, get 1, cancel the 10, get 2. 9 times 2 is 18, right? So it's 18 plus 32, and it gives me 40, 50, right? 50 lane. Yes, you had 50. So what I can say is that it's degrees Fahrenheit, right? So that will be the answer for the item number 1. Yes, exactly, 50. Now, in this case, in this example, we are going to plug in this piece of information, not instead of C, but instead of F, right? So let me use an orange one and point that this will go in place of the F. So I will be getting that the -5 is equal to 9/5 Celsius plus 32, right? So on this one, I will have to work, and I will ask you to work on it. Find me what's the value of the C. I want us to practice. Okay, I'll do the same work here, on a piece of paper. I'll give you 3 minutes to work on it. And then can you please put the answer into the chat messages for me? I'll resume the recording as well. So first thing I should do is to move the 32 to the other side. Do not do anything to the fraction yet because it's a coefficient of the C. So we should get rid of the constant first. Therefore, let's do this. Minus 32 minus 32. So from here, I will be getting -39, right? And here on the other side, I will be getting 9/5C. So the -32 and +32 canceled.
Professor, is -37.
-37, -37, thanks a lot. Yes, wonderful. Thank you for noticing it. Yeah, I'm adding 5 and 32, and I get 39. Okay, thank you for noticing. And then what I will do is I will get rid of this fraction. And the way I like to get rid of them is to use the reciprocal. You remember when I flip the fraction, I keep the sign. So if it was negative, it would be negative as well. But I flip the fraction because when I multiply by it, everything cancels out, right? So look, this one is canceled and then this one is canceled, right? So everything is gone, C is alone. But if I do it to the left side, I also have to do it to the right side. So I have to do it to the left side as well. So I have to multiply by 5/9, right? And this gives me this weird fraction. So let me flip the sides right away, right? If I multiply 5 and -37, what am I getting? 5 times 37.
-185.
Okay, yes, and I got the same. Thank you. -185/9. Now, you could put that this is degrees Celsius. You can put this one as the answer. But if you were to divide it, divide by 9, you will be getting 20.5555555, right? So we can round it off. The only thing with rounding off, don't round it off to 2.5. I know that I replied to some of you. Yes, it's okay. Round it off to 20.6, right? Because when we see -20.55555, what we do is we round off at this place, but the next digit is 5. So usually the agreement is that if it's 5 or more, we increase this 5 by 1, right? So round it off to 6, -20.6 degrees Celsius, right? So both of the answers are okay. So either this one, this is degrees, right? Or this one. This curly, wavy lines for the equality, that usually means approximate, but you don't have it on the keyboard. So usually you just type in it without those wavy lines for the equality. Okay. Let me know if you have any questions about the calculations, how we write it. Everybody's good? Okay. Okay, so let's move on then. Let's clear all these drawings and let's go to the next one. This is a tricky one. It's about numbers, right? You might be able to guess the answer, but in majority of the situations, we actually have to make up an equation and solve it. So check this out. One number is 10 more than the other. Okay, I see my typos. The sum of twice the smaller number And 3 times the larger number is 55. Find the numbers. The trick here is if you're able to guess the answer, it's actually easy for you to set up an equation because you're following the same trail. It's just sometimes you really need to think a little bit differently, right? Now, in my opinion, what I would do is I'd set up an equation. And I will start with the first sentence. What I paid attention to is that there are two numbers there, right? They are talking. But we can solve equations in only one variable. So what I will have to do is to express one in terms of the other. Like you remember those consecutive integers? That's exactly the case, right? So we have to express one of the numbers in terms of the other. Now they don't tell us what to do here, what to denotate with and so forth. So it's our, purely our decision. And since we do not like fractions, what I would say is let's denote the smallest one with some variable and then express the larger one in terms of it, right? So for example, look at this sentence. One number is 10 more than the other. How about saying this? X is smaller, right? And then X plus 10 is larger, right? So you see, we already got two numbers. One is the variable and another is expression, right? And then we can parse the second sentence. So what I would ask you to do is if you can put into the chat messages, what do you think the formula should be? Or you can also speak up, okay? So whatever is more convenient to you. Here, let me read it first and then, I'll ask you to do that. So this sum of twice the smaller number and 3 times the larger number is 55. I'm asking you to put in the equation, right? What the equation do you think you'll be using there? Okay, so, just now, like immediately, right? So as soon as you have it, put it into the chat messages. Or just pick up. And I'll change the color. So I got some numbers. I think it will be enough for me to direct the way I am going to work it out. So check this out. You have the word sum, right? It means plus. You have the word is. It means is 55, right? Now you do have the sum with the separator. So you remember how we do the split? The sum of. And then we'll look for the end. This is the end, right? So this is our split. We have 3 times the larger number and we have twice the smaller number, right? Following the split. Now, this is our smaller number. So if I'm saying twice the smaller number, I'm doing 2x, don't I? Right? Okay. When I am told that I have 3 times the larger number, this is my larger number, right? So I need to multiply it by 3. And it means that I have to multiply this entire expression over here. So I will say 3 parenthesis x plus 10, right? And once again, I can always double check myself. This is the smaller number, right? And we did twice it. This is the larger number, and we did 3 times the larger number. What's important here is not to miss these parentheses as always, because 3x plus 10 is quite different from this, right? So I cannot have that. I have to grab the entire large number. I don't want to piece the pieces of it, right? I want the entire large number. It's namely x plus 10. And I want to multiply it by 3. Yeah, so this would be the equation to set up here. And you know what? When we will solve it, we'll find only one of the numbers. So you see what they have over here. Find the numbers, right? The numbers. So after we solve this equation, it doesn't give us the final answer. That's why in the strategies, you're always told, go back and answer the question, right? So let's go ahead and solve this. First thing I will do is I will do 3 times x and then 3 times 10. So I have 2x plus 3x plus 30 equals to 55. I will combine these first two terms. It will give me 5x. I have the plus 30 and 55 copied over, and then I'm going to send this 30 to the other side, right? So I'm doing minus 30, minus 30. It gives me that the 5x is equal to 25. And then finally, I will divide both sides by 5, right? So x came out to be 5, but it's the smaller number, right? So the smaller number, smaller, is 5. What's the larger, right? Because I need to give the full answer. What's the larger? Well, I go back to this information, right? Let me check the chat messages. 15. Yeah, I agree. 15, right? Yeah. So it is 15 because we add the 10. 15. So this will be my final answer for this question, right? Let me know if you have any questions. Okay, everybody's good. Okay, so, what I'm thinking of is that we should set up the next question for after the quiz. If you really wanted to do right now, we can do it. But, I didn't remember if we have anything similar in the quiz. No, I don't think so. I can't recall that we have something similar, right? This is a question from the geometry. So let's just have a few minutes to get ready for the quiz test, for the Kahoot quiz. Give me a moment to open it up so that you can join it. I just want to check the questions. I don't remember that they, yeah, yeah. So they are not. I'll just call that we will play it. So just give me a moment. I need to start it first and then I'll share the screen with you so that you could use the pin. Okay, so here is the Kahoot quiz. This is the pin at the top. Let's wait for a few minutes for everybody to join. I think 5 minutes will be more than enough. And while you're joining, I'll give you the information about the quiz. It's based on the material of this section, but you see, as we are solving literal equations here, right? That's something that we had in chapter number 1. So very slowly, but things weave into the material that we covered before, right? So make sure that you're on top of all the topics. If you have any issues with the material, do not hesitate to offer the tutoring, right, through our Blackboard. Okay. Okay. Yeah, sorry, I had to answer the question. And then let me start.